This is Jared Horak for the runawayhorse.com, and in this week's video we're going to recap Preakness 2019 and we're going to look ahead to the Belmont Stakes. And let's look back to the Preakness first. And we were live on site at Pimlico for Preakness week. We did a video for today's RacingDigest.com. We did 3 stakes races on Black Eyed Susan Day, and we went 3 for 3 in those stakes races. So we had a good week last week for Black Eyed Susan Day. And now we're going to look back at the Preakness. Now the Preakness, you had your top 4 finishers. War of Will ended up winning the race after a troubled trip in the Kentucky Derby. Everfast long shot was second, and then Owendale and Warrior's Charge, both trained by Brad Cox, finished 3rd and 4th. Now War of Will, what a difference a couple weeks makes from a trip standpoint, because in the Kentucky Derby he did not have a good trip from the inside post. He was bothered by maximum security. That one ended up getting disqualified. And he probably would have placed higher if he wasn't bothered that day. But again, with the Derby was a race that he needed because he was very sharp over the winter, winning the Lecomte Stakes and the Risen Star. And then he came back in the Louisiana Derby. He pulled a muscle, finished up the track. 6 weeks between starts, between the Louisiana Derby and the Kentucky Derby. He probably needed that race. So then fast forward to the Preakness Stakes, again with an inside draw, but this time he got the perfect trip. There was a contested pace. He was sitting behind the speed, saving ground most of the way around the track. Seam opened up on the inside. He was able to shoot up the inside and win nicely, to win by a bit more than a length over a big long shot Everfast. Now Everfast was very difficult to come up with. His last 3 starts he had lost by a combined 43 lengths. I think he lost like his last 9 starts in a row. He was something like 0 for 7 in the stakes ranks. He did finish second at more than 100 to 1 odds in the Holy Bull Stakes earlier this year. And then he basically ran back to that race. The Preakness wasn't a particularly fast race, and he was able to rally and finish second, just edging out Owendale, your Lexington Stakes winner, and he rallied off the pace as well. And then Warrior's Charge, they supplemented him to the Preakness for more than $150,000, and he ended up setting the pace, hung in there throughout, and he finished a decent 4th. But the story was War of Will. He bounced back. It was a nice effort. He's one of the more consistent 3-year-olds in a very disappointing year so far. We've seen a lot of different winners in the points races. In the Kentucky Derby, we saw Maximum Security get disqualified. We saw Country House place first, paid more than $132. In the Preakness, War of Will set the perfect trip, and he needed that perfect trip to win this race, because if he could have gotten in any kind of trouble, we could have seen Everfast winning the Preakness. So wouldn't that have been something, to have Country House pay over $100 winning the Derby, and then Everfast, a huge long shot, winning the Preakness. But War of Will was able to set the right trip, and his tactical speed always makes him dangerous when he can work out a trip. So that's the story of the Preakness. And now we're going to jump ahead to the Belmont Stakes. It looks like right now there could be 10 horses in the Belmont. Everfast, we mentioned him. He's one that could go. Game winner for trainer Bob Baffert. Is the Belmont Stakes possible? He had an impossibly wide trip in the Kentucky Derby, and he didn't finish bad. The top 9 finishers in the Derby were separated by 9 lengths. That was not a strong race visually at all on that wet track. Game winner ran well enough to be considered, along with his grinding running style, a contender in the Belmont Stakes. Intrepid Heart for Todd Pletcher. He won his first 2 starts, and then he disappointed, finishing a distant 3rd in the Peter Pan. He has an excellent pedigree to go 1.5 miles, and he's one that still has upside with only 3 starts. Master Fencer, he ran okay in the Kentucky Derby, coming in from Japan, and he could be more dangerous at 1.5 miles. The horses that were bred in Japan typically can run all day. Owendale is another one. Mentioned him, 3rd in the Preakness. He's a late runner. He could run in the Belmont Stakes. Sir Winston finished 2nd in the Peter Pan, finished full of run, and he's one that seems to have a lot of stamina, but he doesn't have much speed, so he would be a late threat, and typically deep closers can be in trouble in races like the Belmont Stakes. Spinoff for trainer Todd Pletcher, one that does have speed. He has speed. He ran well in the Louisiana Derby, finishing 2nd, finished up the track in the Kentucky Derby. Expect him to at least be forwardly placed in the Belmont if he goes there. Tacitus for trainer Belmont. He ran okay in the Kentucky Derby. He won the Tampa Bay Derby and the Wood Memorial before that. He would be a major player in the Belmont Stakes. He's fresh. He's been pointing to this race. He's one of the top contenders right now. Not even looking at form or anything right now, just looking at the horses that are in there. He's a big threat to win the Belmont. Tax is another one, a New York horse. He ran well multiple times in stakes races over the winter and into the spring. And then he finished up the track in the Kentucky Derby. A fast track at Belmont Park. He has a nice pedigree. He would be forwardly placed, and he could make some noise in the Belmont Stakes. And then War of Will. Obviously, he has that long-distance turf pedigree and tactical speed. He would be a threat. But typically when the Triple Crown is not on the line, horses that don't run in the Preakness, they skip the Preakness, maybe ran in the Derby, skipped the Preakness, run in the Belmont, they're the most dangerous horses in the Belmont Stakes. And the Preakness didn't look strong. It wasn't a fast race at all either. So if you're looking to try to beat War of Will, there are multiple horses that I mentioned that are capable of beating him. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my YouTube channel, make some comments. What did you think about the Preakness Stakes, and who do you like at this early stage for the 2019 Belmont? Until next week's video, good luck at the races.